So when you hear the phrase breaking the silence, what does it make you think and feel?
Um, to be fair, for me, I think breaking the silence is having the ability to speak out about how you're feeling. To people that potentially might be feeling the same way and you have no idea about it. I think this year has been the best example of realizing that there are a lot of people, especially in our industry, that are going through similar things. But I feel because of our industry, everything has to be perfect online. I think the stigma at the moment is, especially on Instagram and TikTok and places like that, I feel you've got to show your best life and obviously the best parts of your job and things like that. So I think, yeah, for me, breaking the silence this year has been realizing that everyone is probably going through something similar to what you are.
Hmm. How did you come to that realization then?
Um, I think that's why I've really wanted to get involved. I think mental health for me has always been something that um, I've suffered from in different periods of my life. Didn't really know what it was, if I'm honest. And I thought it was just the correlation between something negative happening in my life and then the way I was feeling. But then it turns out, especially this year, there's been some real highs for me, which I'm very lucky and fortunate for, but I still wasn't I suppose happy in a way. So just managing to break the silence and speak to people, especially close friends and people like that. I feel everyone you kind of look up to or people you think mental health wouldn't be an issue for, it is for everyone in some sort of aspect. So that's been a real eye opener for me this year.
I always say that you can walk into a room full of people and pretty much, I mean, it's hard to say 100% of the people, but maybe like 95% of the people are all going through something internally. Externally, you'll have absolutely no idea, but internally, they're probably all going through something in their own way. And yeah, you're right. You have no idea.
Mm, exactly that. As I said, I feel it's weird because as a content creator, I feel like I'm put into loads and loads of examples, and I have a lot of opportunities where I'm put in these scenarios where I feel like I have to be this certain person. I feel like being a content creator, you're always supposed to be bubbly. You're always supposed to be out there and loud and brilliant networking and brilliant with people. And I feel like that's kind of not necessarily me. I'm quite anxious. I'm quite shy in some certain situations. So yeah, for me, seeing that people that might be a little bit louder, a bit more extroverted, are also dealing with the same things that I deal with, that is probably again this year been really interesting to see because I thought it was just kind of me or people like me within content creation that was the suffering with different thoughts, different feelings, maybe not being good enough, imposter syndrome, things like that.
And I guess that's the whole thing, isn't it, about social media? And I guess the stigma behind it, you were saying, is that we all look at, I mean, like Instagram, for instance, we love it, but we hate it because
Yeah.
it's the highlights reel of people's lives. Whatever it is, whether you're using it just for yourself personally or using it for, your job, whatever it might be, we are so used to seeing only good things when we open any of those apps, any of them at all. And especially if we are people that our jobs are us. We
Mm.
are our brands, we are our jobs. And there's the stigma as well behind, well, we always have to be a certain way the whole time. When we're posting something on social media, it has to be a certain way the whole time. And I feel like sometimes what can happen with that is you can almost lose yourself because you're then almost covering up all the time stuff that you shouldn't be, stuff that you should actually be talking about, but you're not, and you're sharing all the good things all the time, but actually you're just covering things up. And I think, like I said, you lose yourself because then you kind of start to push things aside that you shouldn't be pushing aside because again, you're trying to maintain an image that doesn't actually have to be an image.
I think one of the biggest things for me is realizing that especially within content creation, I feel like I've really struggled in recent years to separate the outcome or the success from the outcome within posting likes, views, brand deals, all that type of stuff with who I am as a person. I feel like because maybe content creation isn't a typical 9 to 5 job where you go to work and then after work you kind of forget about it. I feel like we've got the luxury where it's flexible hours, but I feel like we're always switched on in a certain way. And because of that, I think it's not ideal because I might, for example, post a video. It might not get the certain amount of likes that I'd want it to get, or the certain amount of views that I want it to get. So that for me in recent years has been that's my worth. Whereas if you think about it, it's an algorithm.
Mhm.
And the algorithm might not just push your content that day. So for me, it has been a real struggle of people asking, "What do you do as a job?" And I say, "I'm a content creator." And the first thing I worry about is them going onto my page and going, "Oh, that video didn't do well," or "He hasn't got the amount of followers that that person's got," or "He's not been put in that situation where someone else has." And that's again trying to separate the fact that content creation is a job and I am me. And I think again in the last couple of years, I've really tried to understand why I feel that certain way and understand that I don't know. I just feel that there's a lot of people that have gone and have been small creators and they've just gone under the radar. They've just been themselves. And then they've naturally then got lucky or because they've worked hard as well. There's an element of that where they've then blown up. And I feel like because we're constantly chasing that success of whatever it might be, whether it's financially, whether it's going viral, whatever it is, it's very hard to go, well, if it's not working yet, we're a failure.
Mhm.
Whereas I think there's a lot of things that we can say in content creation where they're small successes, even if you haven't reached your goal yet. Yeah, so for me, it's hard to differentiate between Dan, the content creator, and Dan, just what he's like outside of content creation. I feel like it's all just one big image.
Because I think the key word here is authenticity. At the end of the day, you have to be the most authentic version of you possible.
Mm,
And again, that's really hard to put out on social media, but likes and followers and all of that in mind, like you were saying, because we've all done it. Like I'll hold up my hands as well. We've all done it. They don't define who we are. They don't define our self-respect, our self-worth, our self-love. They don't define any of those things. They don't define how many people like us or don't like us. Like they
mm,
just don't. But I think the issue is we don't always see that. And you're right. We might look at something and go, oh my God, this one didn't get this many likes. And why hasn't this one got this many views? I must be rubbish today. And you then start to go into like a self-doubt spiral. And I understand because then it continues like that. But it's being able to find yourself away from the camera first, almost.
mm,
Finding who you are, yes, separately, because obviously that's the thing, the brand, the content creating, and yourself is all, it merges into one. I understand it in my own respect, but it's also finding yourself away from the job
mm,
and being able to then express yourself in that respect. And then when you are posting on social media or whatever it is that you're doing, you know you're doing a good job for you. And you know that as long as you're doing a good job for you and you're happy with what you're doing, that's what matters. Yes, people will like it, some people won't. And again, I think we're also in a world where a lot of us are learning as well that it's okay if not everybody, you know, likes us, whatever
mm.
that might be. And that's again something that a lot of us are learning in our own rights. And so it's a tricky world, 100%. And I know that mental health is really something that is definitely not discussed a lot about in this space, especially on the social side of things. Yes, in football, a little bit more, in sports, a little bit more. But you are right, in the content creator, influencer space, that side, I don't think it is as discussed as much yet.
I think the perfect example of that was Strive Aid this year.
Mhm.
Obviously, very fortunate to be in a room with so many people that you kind of see on social media all the time, whether they're friends or whether they're just people that you follow and you have, very brief interactions with over the course of the year. But just being able to have 3 or 4 hours spare at Strive Aid and actually speak to these people and get to know them, you just realize that your struggles are very, very similar to theirs. And as you said about finding who you are as a person, I feel that a lot of content creators, especially if they are trying to move towards it full time now, the brand is them and they are the brand. So if someone doesn't like a bit of content that they do, I especially find it hard when if they don't like it because I feel like it's not just a reflection on the brand's content, it's a reflection on me. So there might be types of content that I might do which is completely out of my character and um, a complete act in terms of like little skits I'll do and stuff. And people will like that. And I'll go, well, that's not me in real life. So I'm a bit quiet, I'm a bit more shy and reserved in real life. And then there might be things where I talk personally, and people don't like that because it's a bit too serious to be posted on social media. And then because they don't like it, and I go, well, for the first time, I've actually spoken from the heart, and I've spoken about important things that matter, or it's not been as light-hearted this piece of content, and they've not liked it. Maybe that's an indication that I should stop talking about this. And that's, I think, where it's very it's very tough to find the space between entertaining someone online, but also talking about relevant things that not just content creators, everyone deals with.
Yeah.
I just feel like being a content creator as well doesn't help my situation, but I don't think my situation comes from doing the job. I just think it just doesn't help. So yeah, I think it's a fine line between finding the space to entertain people and to be this character that people find entertaining enough to get you the views, the likes, the brand deals, the engagement, and also talking about just being you and just being the real side of you and what your beliefs are, what you truly believe in, what you're passionate about. And it might be a term. I think the perfect thing for me is this year. So I've obviously done football content creation for a long time. Now, for me, football content creation doesn't define who I am. I love to do some singing. Would love to get into fashion. I'd love to get into loads of different stuff. So the second I start posting singing videos and fashion videos, that's when the messages come through going, why is the football guy singing? And it's like, because I just want to be me. I just want to put content out there that's me. But then you realize the football videos might get one level of engagement and the singing videos might get, or the fashion videos might get another level of engagement. So it's not good for the brand. So there's a part of me that just wants to do it for me. And then there's a part of me that realizes that at the end of the day, it's a job and that I need to do what's best to, financially and to progress my career. So that's another tough one. I feel like when you're online, people put you in boxes. Um, and if you come out of that box, they don't tend to be too pleased about it.
No, I agree. I do agree with that, but I think again, it's not being defined by other people and being able to define it by yourself. At the end of
Mm.
the day, like when I think about my social media, obviously it's a lot of sport and football and presenting, and then I like cosplaying Comic-Con, and every so often I'll throw in a photograph of me dressed up as like Spider-Man, and that will then add into, but this is me and my life and my hobbies and what I also like to do. So you're gonna get a football post today? No, you're gonna get me dressed up as Wonder Woman.
I love
Like, surprise.
that.
I understand it, yes, because it does take it away, but I think also people need to find the balance and the fine line of you're still a human being at the end of the day. Behind the camera, you're still a human being at the end of the day, and you have hobbies and likes and loves and passions, and we all go through different things in our lives. We get our hearts broken, we fall in love, like everything. We're all going through it in our own ways, and we look at people, yes, okay, like yourself looking at your content, football, great, the football guys, you said in inverted commas, but you're also still a human being. And if there are other things that you want to share occasionally, believe me, there's someone out there that's watching all your stuff that probably loves singing. And they'll see that video and they'll go, yes, that's the one. And you know what? If you made that person's day, you made one person's day.
No, true. Very, very true. And that's again, I think one big thing I've kind of, especially in the last month, I'd say is I want to kind of define my success now by being the action rather than the outcome. And I think that's one thing I've really, really struggled with. If I'm constantly doing that 2 to 3 things every day, then that's a success. Whether that might be going to the gym, going for a walk, posting daily, and being consistent with posting, whatever it might be, whether it's in the job space or the personal space. I think what I'm really trying to do now is, as I said, if I constantly do that action every day, that's the success, not the okay, the gym session wasn't as good as it could be, or the post didn't get as many likes as I wanted it to. And I think because I've been constantly defining my success as the outcome, which sometimes is out of our control, that's when it leads to negative thoughts. And I'm struggling now because I'm spending 4 or 5 hours editing this one video and it's got not many views, not many likes. Is that really what I'm worth? And then that's when it all just, gets on top of you. So I think, yeah, that's the one thing I've taken in the last month, especially from like reading a few bits and listening to a podcast. I think trying to just focus on the action rather than the outcome is something that I need to work on and for next year.
I really like that actually. I feel like I've heard it before, but I really like how you put it. You're just
Mm.
focusing on the daily things or the tasks that you want to get through in the day, and rather than, well, how good or bad was it, and letting that affect you and determine your mental well-being for the day. It is. It's just want to go to the gym, great. Gonna go to the gym and get through whatever I can get through. And if I can't lift this today, I'm still at the gym doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly
no,
that.
yeah, it's nice. It's a really nice way to put it. And then I was going to ask you next then, speaking of this, what is something that in your career so far then, a moment that when you look back, you kind of look back and you just think, wow, like that was amazing, like a life-changing moment, but a one that really, is special to you.
Um, I'd probably say, well, Strive Aid was one.
Mhm.
Being on a pitch and sharing a pitch with not only World Cup and Champions League and Premier League winners, but kind of away from the professional athlete side, just the content creators that I've looked up to since I started the job. That's one. But I think this year, I've been very fortunate enough to work with Spurs, who is my club. And yeah, I feel I've been a season ticket holder at Spurs since I was, I think, 4 or 5. And religiously go home and away and watch their games and stuff. So this year to work so closely with the club and be part of their campaigns and a few of their social media adverts. I was involved with a project for the women's team as well recently. And just being more involved with the club I've supported since I was 5 years old. I think that's a moment where the Dan of 2022 or 2020 would have gone, that's the goal, that's the aim. It's probably not achievable, but we're going to try our best to get there. And I think the fact that it has been achieved in some capacity this year, and hopefully next year, fingers crossed, the partnership and the relationship can even grow even further. I think, yeah, it's just that's one moment where I've gone crazy that I've been sat in the stands for God knows how many years, and now I've been recognised like through obviously social media that the actual club want to work with me, and that's probably a privilege that I wasn't expecting to be achieved anytime soon.
Yeah, well, if you could go back and tell the little Dan and say, hey, by the way, in X many years, see you in that seat. You're gonna be working with the
100%.
club. Yeah.
There was a moment at, and it's not, I say it's not as special because obviously we had White Hart Lane for many years, and it was only recently that we've moved into the new stadium. But at the women's game, we had a moment where we were on the side of the pitch filming the players for the campaign, and then we walked past the main south stand, and I could kind of see my seat from there, and just thinking it's crazy how. Don't get me wrong, there's so many people as well. I think it's more, what's the word I'm looking for? Just having being humble, but also just having the realization that there are so many content creators out there that would love the moment I'm in right now, even if they're not a Spurs fan. So just feel so lucky that again, I've been allowed that amount of access or that relationship with the club to do that. Again, it's moments like that I need to constantly remind myself that yeah, in June 2018, your videos didn't do well, but it's led to this. And I think it's those moments where I go, it's all worth it. So yeah, definitely working with Spurs this year has been a main highlight for me.
I love that example because I can relate with regards to Arsenal, so
I knew that was coming.
oh, well, you said it, so I had to bring it up. But no, but I can because I remember when I was earlier this year, so earlier in 2024, when I was pitch side at the Emirates, and I remember looking up at my seat and being like, what? Like, what is going on? Like, what am I like? And it was one of those moments where like I would look up and was like, this is so cool. Like being pitch side, and then when I was in my seat the following game, I was like, looked down at the pitch and I was like, that was me. And that was the first time it happened. So when you do have those moments, I think you take those kind of moments with you forever, in my opinion.
I think it's a big realization point as well. I think because we're so stuck in what's next, then I'm really, really bad for this. I mean, I even went
Mm.
through it recently, literally a week ago. I was about to set my goals for 2025 and was looking at the goals that I set myself last year. And I was very fortunate enough to achieve quite a lot of the goals I set. But because you're always thinking about what the next thing is, you don't necessarily realize it until you actually sit down for a moment, breathe, and analyze it. There's been even if they were like not major goals, they might be mini goals of working with a player, or it might be to post a certain amount of times, whatever it is. And it's only until, yeah, you sit down and really analyze what you wanted for yourself a year ago that you realize, do you know what, I've actually managed to achieve it. And I feel like because it's always right, what's the next thing? How can I improve? That can spiral into again negativity because you don't realize how far you've come or how much you've improved. So those little moments where you said you're working at Arsenal and I was pitch side at Spurs and stuff, they're kind of the moments that make you realize, okay, this is a real good opportunity and a good moment to realize how far I've come because you don't often get them because you're always just again, you're always thinking about the next thing.
Well, we're always chasing like the next mountaintop. Like we are constantly always chasing. And realistically, we just got to stop every once in a while. We've got to sit back and we have literally just got to enjoy the view, enjoy the
Mm.
journey, and just sit there and be like, hey, like that happened yesterday or last week or whenever it was, and just really fully embrace it because you're right. We are all constantly on the go, moving at this fast pace, chasing, 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 chasing. And we do. We just got to sit back and enjoy sometimes. Just really just sit back.
No, 100%. And again, um I kind of came out of content creation. I've only recently started getting back into it this year. I came out of content creation for about 9 months just to kind of deal with certain stuff.
Mhm.
And I think one big thing was I was constantly worried about, right, the views aren't going to be there when I get back to posting and stuff like that. So I was always kind of panicking. And don't get me wrong, it will be a slow burner and it will be a slow start, but fingers crossed it will get there if I remain consistent. But one thing I think I realized within those 9 months that I was out of content creation is it gave me a lot of perspective to just go, do you know what? You don't know who you are. You don't know what you want. You don't know how you want to dress. You don't know. There were so many things I didn't know about myself. And I think that 9 months out was probably the best thing possible because again, it was just like, right, I need to be doing this type of content because that's what people like. I need to dress this certain way on camera because that's what gets the most attention in a positive way. I need to be speaking like this because that's the funniest way that I can be on character. And it's only until and I started noticing it. I put on this like Cockney accent for one of my skits, and I started doing it in real life. I started going out with friends and doing it. And people are looking at me and like, mate, what are you doing? And it was only until I realized that like this social media character and this persona had become me. I was like, I don't know who I am. I'm putting on an accent to try and be funnier. I'm wearing certain clothes that I'd wear on camera to impress people. And it was like, again, it was only until I really stepped back and had 9 months of going to the gym, going on walks, just reflecting that I realized, you know what, there is a side of me that doesn't have to be online.
Yeah.
And I think yeah, that's the one thing that I want to take into 2025. That my goals for 2025 can't just be career focused; they have to be personal as well.
100%. And like I had a conversation with someone recently and we were talking about like football, for instance, and obviously football being a huge part of my job, obviously. Sometimes when I'm not at work and I'm talking to anyone, anywhere, at the gym, wherever it is, and sometimes people bring up football. And because obviously it's my passion and my hobby and I love it as well, but sometimes I need to be like, no football today. Like
Yeah.
just for this 5 minute conversation, don't ask me about football. I don't need to know who Mikel Arteta is gonna start tomorrow. Like let's just talk about the gym and my point is because it's just coming away from it's being able to separate, like we were saying, it's still our lives and we love it and that's our passion and our hobby. But there is a point where sometimes we do just need to separate ourselves. And separating yourself from it all takes it away from even it feeling like an inverted commas work or a job or whatever it might be. And just being like, you know what? I'm gonna fully embrace everything else today that's not that part. And
Mm.
that's kind of the differentiating yourself.
No, 100%. Um, yeah, and I just feel like whatever it is, as I said, going back to the singing or the fashion or the gym or whatever it might be, I think yeah, taking accountability to just do stuff for you. Not everything has to be related to work. Not everything has to be related to the outcome, as we put it. And as I said, I think yeah, really realizing that there are so many people out there that are suffering from this.
Mm.
Whether I was probably one of the first ones to talk about it this year, and as I said, being in a room full of people, and it was kind of me that spoke about it. And then when you've got so many people relating and saying, "Do you know what? I've not really spoken about this before. I said this before, but yeah, I've had this situation, and it's crazy that we are all going through something in some sort of capacity, but no one wants to talk about it. And it's strange because it's I don't know how we've got to a place in society where, well, social media is obviously a big thing, but it seems like we need to portray positivity at all costs, whereas I feel like we lose a lot of personality in that way.
Mhm.
um and it's hard. I don't know, again, maybe just through talking or through more awareness, but yeah, it's I feel like it's a whole world out there, especially on social media, where everything is to be portrayed positively. But then you've got certain people who comment on videos and comment on posts that are feeling negative about themselves, and they're normally the first people that post negative stuff. And they're always a person behind a fake account with no profile picture, and it's just a constant world of the people that are posting on social media are trying to portray this real extra positive, successful image that maybe isn't the full truth.
Mhm.
And then you've got the people that are judging that, feeling negative about themselves, to feel the need to try and make that person feel even more negative about it. And it's just kind of it's a spiral that I do really think needs fixing in social media. How it can be done, I don't know. Whether we need proper verifications for people using social media where your account is linked to a name and a face. um but in terms of awareness of society, of how we can just, not everything has to be perfect, the perfect filter, the perfect lighting, the perfect audio, the perfect outfit. It doesn't have to be perfect, because we're not perfect.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, you got a box around your face if anyone thinks otherwise.
The camera's not perfect.
Your camera didn't work, so
Exactly.
and we're still here and we're doing it anyway.
Exactly.
Um, but just on that, a lot of the times when people are negative to us or they're rude or they say things that might hurt us, a lot of the times, even though we do not see it, people are projecting. And it's exactly what you said. People are projecting their own insecurities, their own fears, their own worries, their own whatever it is that they don't like about themselves onto us. And we don't always realize that what they're saying about us actually may not be true. It's actually how they feel about themselves, but obviously it's something that we internalize and we spiral about, and I get it. Um, but that's projecting is a real thing, and it's crazy how many people do it more than we realize.
And it's sad as well in some cases, because especially when I get negative comments online for whatever it might be, I try and come back with a sarcastic comment to a negative, rather than delete it or bite back in a way that's negative back. I'll always try and be sarcastic or try and make a joke of the comment. And it's amazing how many of those negative comments, when you reply to them, they reply back with, "Oh, I was only joking, mate," or, and that's the sad bit, because they felt the need to comment in a negative way because of how they're feeling, and as soon as you've given them a little bit of a, it's not a reaction because it's not negative, but as soon as you've kind of reached out in a way by replying to their message and kind of asking, "Is everything okay?" That's when the mood completely changes. And I feel like it's crazy. It's crazy how, don't get me wrong, social media is an, but then there are a lot of negatives where I feel like everyone is trying to be unbelievable
Mm.
and perfect, and that's just not the case. No one's perfect. No one doesn't make mistakes, and it's a hard one.
hmm Going back to the authenticity, you really have to find who you are. And that's a really, really, really difficult thing. I'm not saying that's easy at all.
Mm.
But even if you can start to find slithers of it, you just become more of a human than you realize. And if it is your job and if it is something you do, especially if you're on a camera, you start to become your own unique person and you will excel in your own different ways.
Do you know what I think as well? I think a point of why a lot of people might not want to be their true personality, their true self online, is because, well, if you're going to judge my skit or you're going to judge this character that I portray in a negative way, that's fine. That's not me. But if you're going to portray, or if you're going to comment negatively on the outfit I chose to wear today, or this or that, or this decision I made, that's a negative reflection on me as the person. But I don't think negativity is the negativity. So people I don't think want to be them true selves and show maybe not so the not so good bits, but people are going to be negative anyway in a certain
Mhm.
sense. So you've just got kind of, as you said, be your true self, be authentic, be your personality because you're unique. No one's going to be like you. And again, especially on social media, if they like it, brilliant. If they don't like it, brilliant. You just kind of gotta go with it.
I was gonna wrap up and I was gonna say, what advice would you give to, and I feel like you just said it though. What advice would you give? Because I like what you were saying. What advice would you give then to somebody that is maybe where you were 5 years ago, let's say? I mean, obviously I know everything still happens today, but what would you say to someone that's probably is starting out and they're worried and they're stressed and they're scared and
Within
all the
content
things that we've
creation,
just yeah, and all the things that we've discussed about so far.
um, do you know what? I'd probably say that bit of that line at the start, which I really that's my main goal for 2025. I think I've had so many like goal sheets and goal setting sheets where I want to do this, and I've had 10 outcomes that I need to do every day, and I need to earn this amount of money, or I need to get this amount of views, or I need to do this or do that. And I just feel like it's taken me 3.5, 4 years of content creation to realize that as long as you're consistent and as long as you're yourself, just trust it'll work out.
Mhm.
And I feel that's what I mean. I think I've been so caught up the last 3, 4 years in the outcome and getting to that milestone that I've not enjoyed the journey getting to it.
Mhm.
And I've not necessarily done the right things to try and get to that milestone anyway. So as I said, focusing on the action rather than the outcome, I think it should be an enjoyable journey to just like going to the gym, an enjoyable journey working on the process rather than completing it.
Mhm.
Um, and again, I'm probably the worst person to give this advice because it's only the last month or so that I've really tried to hit home with myself. But yeah, I think one thing that I'm going to work on, and I think other people should work on, especially if they're just starting out with whatever they, not just content creation, with anything, is just yeah, focus on the action rather than the outcome. Because if your focus is on the action, the outcome will come. It will happen.
Oh, I like it. I like it a lot. So, and whether you've only realized that a month ago or, it doesn't matter
It's
because,
taken some time, but but
hey,
it's
well,
there now.
it's there now. And, a few years ago it wasn't. So if it's there now, that's all that matters is we have to focus on.
No, true, very true.
Well, thank you so much. It's amazing to talk to you today.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it.